The top 5 Liberal Entitlements of 2016. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. You've heard the saying before, the boss sets the tone. The guy at the top sets the tone for the whole organization. So last year in 2015, when Justin Trudeau was sworn in, he set the tone for his cabinet and he sent them exactly the wrong signal. His first act was to move his nannies off of his own personal payroll onto the public payroll. You remember that story. We talked about it a lot last year. Well, what about 2016? What did Trudeau's actions then, lead to this year? And they led to cabinet ministers deciding that they were going to spend money on all sorts of things they shouldn't have. We'll get into the list now, but suffice to say the cabinet ministers and his top advisors were bad enough that we don't even have room to include in the list of Liberal entitlements Trudeau's bar bill from flying all around the world. The bar bill on the plane is crazy. We don't have time to add in that he flew his party bagman, top fundraiser, down to Washington for the state dinner, or that they had the NCC set up a special trampoline at the house for the kids. That cost a small fortune. No, we've got to go through just the cabinet ministers and top advisors. Number 5 is a story I brought you last March. Judy Foote, the Minister of Public Works. We received an ATIP after finding out that Foote was spending an awful lot of staff time and money trying to fix a small heating problem in her office. See, it was a bit too chilly for Judy Foote. She wanted the room hotter. They had staff come in and check the temperature, monitor it for more than a day, and what did they find out? It was 22 degrees Celsius, or what most of us call room temperature. But that wasn't enough for Foote. She wanted it to be 24 degrees. They looked at everything from sending staff to Canadian Tire to buy space heaters to installing a brand new system, and in the end, that's what they did. The best estimate we have is more than $4,000, but that doesn't count the countless hours of staff time and emails. I mean, we went through hundreds of pages of emails looking at this issue. This was the big priority. Oh, and by the way, Foote, being the Public Works Minister, she's the one in charge of making sure everything's bought according to government standards and rules. They were breaking the rules, as we discovered in that. It's all part of the Liberal entitlement. Number 4, Catherine McKenna and her photographer. Now, we all know that her boss likes to take pictures, but at least Justin Trudeau, most of the time, seems to be taking pictures of himself. And it's long been a tradition that Canadian prime ministers have had their own personal photographer. But an environment minister? Catherine McKenna wanted in on some of that action, so she hired a photographer for the Paris Climate Change Conference. What was the final tally to you? $6,600. May not be a fortune, but it's a fair chunk. Especially since, journalists went looking and couldn't really find any evidence that we got a whole lot of photos that went public. There were selfies and people reaching out with their arms and taking pictures with their phones, but where were the professional photographs that we paid so much for? They were nowhere to be found. Number 3 on the Liberal top 5 entitlements of 2016, Gerry Butts and Katie Telford, 2 of Trudeau's closest advisors. And why are they on the list? Because between them, they billed the taxpayers $207,000 to move from Toronto to Ottawa. That's right. Telford's tally was $80,000, but Butts was a staggering $126,000 to move from Toronto to Ottawa. I can't believe that it would actually cost that much, but he billed us for all kinds of things, including his real estate fees. In the end, they did pay back some of the money, about $65,000 between the two of them, but it's still a staggering amount. And it speaks to Liberal entitlement, the thing that was just summed up so beautifully all those years ago by David Dingwall.
You're trying to say that entitlements, I'm not entitled to my entitlements. No, I am entitled to my entitlements.
That clip never gets old, does it? Let's keep moving up the chart here. The next two, they're kind of related, but they're 2 different ministers competing for the top spot. Who's going to come in at number 1? Well, it's not the infrastructure minister, Amarjeet Sohi. He comes in at number 2 because he only spent $800,000 to renovate some office space for him. Ottawa is full of government office space, and it's full of surplus government furniture. But when Sohi was named infrastructure minister, he wasn't just going to have any office. He wanted a beauty of an office and the latest office furniture. So more than $250,000 spent on office furniture, more than $800,000 between him and his deputy minister for new office space. It's a ridiculous sum, but it was outdone by the woman who's at number 1 on our list, and that is Patty Hadju. She's the Minister of the Status of Women. And she decided that rather than take office space across the street from where her department sits in a building that's under the same department as hers, she had to be right next to the staff that she wanted to see all the time, right next to them. So instead of paying $400,000 to renovate the offices across the street, $1.1 million. That's right, $1.1 million. Along the way, they had to redesign it several times. They were giving people too much space. They weren't following government guidelines. They drove up the cost time and time again, and they had it fast-tracked. According to the Canadian press, the minister was warned this could result in blowback. She fast-tracked it anyway, said, get it done. That, ladies and gentlemen, is our top 5. It speaks to the way that Liberals view your money. It's their money to be spent on making their tushies cushy. Just remember that as we head into 2017. I'm sure there'll be no shortage of material for a list like this in the future. If you like the video you just watched, make sure you never miss a Rebel video again. Click subscribe so that you never miss a Rebel video, so they're always in your feed. And make sure you drop by the rebel.media and become a member and access premium content.